Afternoon, everybody. A little bit daunting arriving here and then having Rob take the thunder completely. Thank you very much, my friend. Since we met, I've been wondering, one, what the hell I'm doing here, and two, what I'm going to say to an audience like this. A wonderful lineup of speakers. Congratulations to you guys, and an outstanding audience. I've done a bit of my research. The title started as a poor joke. It remained a poor joke, but unfortunately, I don't have an acronymic sort of sales tool. I don't have some presentation called BOOM, this is how we're going to do it, or BANG, or ACTION, or POWER, or whatever it is. So we panicked a little while, and I thought, I was wondering what I was going to tell you. I did my research in terms of who's going to be here in the room. And I realized that, I was nervous already, and then this morning, following the live stream, the hashtags, more importantly, the nuggets of information, it's made me even more petrified. So I'm gonna start slowly, probably end even slower. But I said to Robin Hobson, who's up after me, and by the way, smells fantastic, that at least she'll have an outstanding platform. You won't be able to sink lower than I do. I used to be a rugby player. We're not known to be the smartest of people, so I can't promise you sort of a prophetic look into the future of the net, words of wisdom on the net, and what the future is going to hold. But I can say to you, I've been incredibly lucky to be curious for all of my life. Professional sport, which was my life and living for 15 years and remains a big part of it, is the most mind-numbingly boring vocation you've ever come across in your life. I've always been a reader, explorer. I've always, like I said, been curious. I've looked at things, and in a way, I suppose, an asker of questions and a sponge for information about realms which I haven't been able to be in. So I've always been looking over the wall, looking at the grass, which is, always seems greener on the other side. I've started some businesses while I was playing. I've lost some money in some of those businesses. I've made some money in some of those businesses. But I've always been a rugby player, or trapped in a rugby player's environment, but wanting to, I suppose, be something else. So what I thought I can do is I can show you some of the things that I've come across that I think have influenced the teams or the businesses that I've been part of. The wins and the losses. I remember the losses far longer than I will remember the wins, whether it's in business or in professional sport. And I can therefore remember what the opposition did against me. And sometimes in business, that's played a little bit in my favor. I've taken the liberty of collecting some of the thoughts and observations, eclectically borrowing. So I'm not laying claim to any of these bits of wisdom, and I'll let that lie squarely with the independent thinkers who came up with them. Like I said, I borrow them eclectically, try and mash them together, get what I can out of them, and work with them in my own little way, in our own little spheres. Please have a look and steal and use them to spark debate. I'm just putting the thoughts out there. And as many of the things as I have learned, I've forgotten. I think that comes from being slightly concussed in the rugby field many times. For us, they say the penny drops through Vaseline. It's a little bit slower than everybody else. But I've always stored them all in notes and books, tried to keep them at hand. And I thought for the sake of brevity, I'd list and talk about the ones that make the biggest difference, or have made, for me, the biggest difference in some of what I do now, in broadcast, in family, or any of the entrepreneurial environments. First one is the 80-20 principle. It's known as the law of the vital few and the trivial many. It's Pareto's law. Vilfredo Pareto was a philosopher around the time of the Italian Renaissance, and it was first verbalized by him because he was studying the wealth holdings of the upper-class Italian families, wondering why 20% of the people held 80% of the wealth. He goes into a lot of depth. 80-20 is something that I'd like to start with because I think it's relevant today, because I've tried to distill any learnings down to the vital few. And also because it's something that I see now that I look earnestly for it in almost every facet of my life. Every business that I'm part of, every situation around the world, in sport, in business, relationships, politics, it is the case. 80% of the objectives are achieved by 20% of the means. Pareto said it's not an exact number, it's more of a rule of thumb, sometimes 78-22, sometimes 85-15, etc., but it's always around that, 80-20. Richard Koch wrote a great book about it called the 80-20 Principle. He's also got 80-20 workshops, etc. You can check it up on the net. The world's top companies, 20% of the product line makes 80% of the sales. Same goes for the profits, which is far more important. 80% of customer complaints are about the same 20% of your products or services. They're also usually from the same 20% of your customers. 20% of the people in the world have accumulated 80% of the wealth. Even scarier than that, of the top 20% of the world, the top 20% of them own 80% of that wealth too. My learning, it's almost exactly that. At iTech Innovate, we've got a small business solutions company, which I'm very proud to be part of. We're trying not to be fast cars and snappy suits and selling a copier and buggering off with some high margin and having an unsustainable business. We're trying to sell on culture and relationships. 20% of our customers bring us 80% of our business. 20% of our sales staff generate 80% of our business. 20% of our product line is 80% of our business. What we've tried to do is push the lines that sell, upskill on the ones that can create the difference for customers, stock more of the ones that we sell more of to create efficiency for ourselves, and put effort into our best 20% of the sales staff and the technical staff because they generate 80% of the business efficiencies. We measure at a little hospitality company that I've got a share in. 80% of our food sales are done in 20% of our menu. We measured it for 8 months. We changed it around. We now have a much, much smaller menu, much more efficient kitchen, much higher GP in terms of profitability, and a much easier thing to sell to the people that come to us. 80-20 is there. If you can identify the parts of your life that give you the most problems, you can start to eradicate them. If you can identify the customers that give you the most profits, the customers that give you the most problems, the customers that give you the most business, you can start to concentrate on them, either fixing their woes or wooing them into more business. It doesn't matter what your business is. It is a golden mean. It is a golden rule. It is something that can be applied to every single part of your life. And for your use, the trick is that if you can concentrate on those 20% that give you the 80% returns, you can grow quicker. You can also influence your entire team and your entire business. In rugby, and I don't want to draw back always to sport every time, but 4 players on the field get the ball 80% of the time. The hooker, the number 8, the number 9, and the number 10. Number 15 gets it after that. The rest of the time, the other 80% of the team share it for 20% of the time. So the most effective people, and we've got a Springbok team which has just been announced. What I can't understand is why didn't you get the guys who are the most effective the ball most of the time? I'm sure the coaches will work that out in time. Okay, so have a think about that in your business. Second one is believe or belief. This is one of the 20%, I promise you. All the great philosophers preach it. The great writers tell us all about it. The celebrities talk about it. The sportsmen and women shout about it, but often we seem to miss it. What you believe and dare to dream is what will happen. If it's not there, dream harder. Work harder at it. See it clearer. Hold the thought of victory or happiness or profitability or a successful business or even a new car clearly in your mind. Your body, the universe, everybody around you will conspire to get it to you. You need to see it for it to come to you. There are people in certain roles who've got to make others believe. That's one of the keys. If you're in a role that can make a big difference, make sure you're a person with a very, very, very clear vision of where you want to go. I've spent ages trying to work out why some people can do that and others struggle, and the answer, not wholly, but in part, lies in your own belief. When you look at the amazing people across history who've led others, it's the ones who've had the unshakable conviction and belief in their ideas that have made the biggest difference. It doesn't matter if it's an errant cult leader, a wartime hero, it's the ones who believe in the outcome according to them that have been the most successful. They've also been the ones who forced most of the others to believe. In relation to sport, what I found fascinating in a chance meeting with Professor Tim Noakes about sportsmen over the history is how much value he attributes to the power of belief in the science of sport. Roger Bannister, famous athlete, was the first man to break the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister attributes every single bit of success in his career to the fact that he was the first man to break the 4-minute mile. When asked when and how he knew he was going to do that, his coach said to him, "I think you can run 3 minutes 57. And in an interview, I think he was 80-odd, I watched it. Tim Noakes gives a fantastic presentation on the science of belief and the science of sport. And he says, the one thing that made me cross that 4-minute mile was the fact that my coach said he believed I could run a 3:57. He only ran a 3:59.7, I think, but the unbreakable barrier was broken. In the 18 months after that, 30 different athletes around the world broke the 4-minute mile. The whole world had said it was impossible before that. But one person broke it, and like the Berlin Wall, it's crossed once, it crumbles. People cross it, people make it, people move on to the next goal. The unshakable belief and held inside you is one of the most important things. Tim Noakes helped me to form an opinion about mine and other sportsmen's contribution to South Africa on winning a World Cup. Before the time, he worked with one of the teams, created belief and a conviction in the end game, in the end result at a Rugby World Cup in 2007. And the conviction of those beliefs was the difference between the last two Rugby World Cup campaigns. One ended in the already foreseen victory, and one ended in the already foreseen defeat. You can think of that what you may. I was there, I understand it, I know the language that was used to communicate the power of what a group of people wanted to do, and I was at the other World Cup, sure, from the outside looking in, but it was a hit and miss. There was no concrete evidence of the same group of people understanding the end goal and working together. So that belief communicated from above is one of the most important things you can do for your company or for the people around you. I don't have a spelling problem, but that is communication like it's seen in many forms of business and in life. It's communication, but it's not actually communication. It sounds like it, but it's not it. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what that belief is that you're holding clear in your body. If you can't actually get your point understood, then you're no better for having the understanding at all. The people around you need you to communicate that to them. I value communication, effective communication, above all. And I believe it'll make or break the way we live. In terms of us going forward and looking at the future and seeing the future as pertaining to ourselves, communicating the goal that we've made clear is one of the most important things we can do. Excuse me. So action is why you're all here today. You're all in the action business. It doesn't matter if you're selling cars, whether on the parking lot or fast online, creating new apps, funding startups, aggregating big data, turning it into learning, managing funds, solving aids, managing ad agencies, managing digital agencies. You want people to act. And if you want them to act, you have to communicate your message to them and make them understand it. Now, we've been through the fact that I'm an ex-rugby player who has to try and sort of put things into his own little box. So I apologize for being a little bit dumb about this one. But Stephen Covey wrote a book called The Eighth Habit, which is communication or to communicate. In a genius piece of subversive communication, he didn't tell anyone that he wasn't the actual Stephen Covey from 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, but his son. He just said Stephen Covey on the front, so as you can imagine, it flew out of stores immediately once he called it The Eighth Habit. But in that, the whole premise for the book and the fact that communication was the 8th habit was a study that he did across 23,000 employees of blue-chip companies in the States. Given that we're happy, well, still partially happy to measure countrywide audience ratings on the stats of just a few thousand hooked-up television boxes, I think it's a very comprehensive study. Blue-chip companies and the employees in those companies. The stats that came out were 37% of those people had an understanding of what the organization was trying to achieve and why. 1 in 5 was enthusiastic about their team's goals and their chances of success. 1 in 5 had a clear line of sight between where they were in the company and how they could contribute to the overall goal. Now, I'm just that thick rugby player, we spoke about it, but let's put it in perspective. If I was a leader today, I'm not, thank goodness. 6 years ago was the last time I had a Bucky's Boerta or someone like it trying to tackle me. I would be leading 22 players in a match day squad for an international. Soon to be 23, but my maths isn't that good, so I haven't managed to change the stats on that yet. I'm going to keep it at 22. Maybe it's relevant because the Springbok training squad was announced yesterday. In a rugby team, that would mean that form of communication or the lack of effectiveness of the communication to those employees in the blue-chip companies in a rugby team trying to perform in a game would mean this. 8 of the 22 players would know which try line was theirs and which was the opposition's. 4 of the 22, or half of those that knew, would care. And if you were lucky, they would be the 4 of the 22 in a match day starting squad that knew which position they played. And all but 4 of the team members in a match day 22 going out to win a test match for their country, for the adoring fans who pack the stadiums, in an international rugby match, all but 4 of the match day 22 would be trying to stop their own team from winning. Now, I don't mind who you are, but if you can lead on those odds, there's a job for you at the helm of the national rugby team. And I know I talk about the 80-20 principle, but even that can't work when you're working against yourselves. Communicate your goals to your team, spell them out, get them to repeat them to you. Make sure you have buy-in, and then do it again and again and again. UPOD, this is a doff of the cap to Tom Peters. It stands for Underpromise, Overdeliver. So don't promise what you can't do. I'm not going to spend a load of time on this, but I implore you to look into it when you communicate. Don't promise something to please a boss, a partner, a friend, a colleague, or a prospective client that you can't deliver on. There's nothing more solid in life than someone who delivers more than they promise, and nothing more weak than someone who underdelivers on a promise. Every single time, it's the biggest difference. The people who deliver on the promise are part of the 20% that you want to keep in your life. It doesn't matter if they're staff, employees, customers, even people that you're working against. You want to understand how well they do things. You want to keep them in their life if they can deliver on their promises. I'm not just talking about business. I've learned to try and UPOD with my little children. Hardest thing in the world is when you promise a story and you come home late from work. You think a 3-year-old is going to forgive you. You know, I'm late. I had to be the breadwinner. I couldn't make it, yes, but we said we were going to have a story tonight. You're breaking promises, breaking hearts. That's much harder than not delivering something in business. I don't profess to understand the female mind. I'm very lucky. I found my partner a long time ago, and we've got happily married with 3 kids, etc. I'm still completely in the dark as to how her mind works. I know that she does the maths and those kind of things in our family much better than I do. But I also know that underpromise, overdeliver works. Because if I go out to a client dinner and I say that I'm coming home at 11 o'clock and I come back at 11:03, I've failed. But if I say that I'm going out to a client dinner, and you know what it's like, because what's-his-face is going to be there, and don't worry, we've got good fellas, and we might have a few extra toots, and I'll probably be home around 12:30, and I saunter in at 11:45, genius. So remember that the next time you promise to finish, early from work, walk the dog, sell more copiers, meet for drinks, check what's possible, it doesn't matter. I don't think this relates to personal goal setting, or it might in some of the relationships. But for me, it relates to stopping yourself trying to please everybody and ending up not being able to please anyone, to disappointing the wrong people. Same again for the companies I was talking about. If we don't sell anything, we don't service, because if you've got an outside service company, lots of them are brilliant. If you've got an outside service company that can't deliver on the promise that you've made, who's responsible? You're responsible. If you've got a partner in a business who can't do what you're trying to achieve in your culture, you're responsible. We're all human. Everybody likes someone to blame. Everybody likes someone to pin the tail on. It's our fault if we can't deliver what we've said. So make sure the people around you are in a value chain according to what you know you can deliver. This isn't the end. Unlucky. It's a reminder, though, that gratitude is the greatest tool of friendship and business that you will pick up. If you're too busy these days to send a card or flowers or even just a note, stop some of what you're doing, reassess why you're doing it, and have a look at the businesses that are already dealing with you, the people who are already customers, the friends who are already there, and thank them for their participation in your life and your business, in the environment that you operate in. It's the most important thing you can do. Rather thank the 20% of the best customers, staff, or even competitors more often, and you'll grow your business, than trying to grow business in a vacuum somewhere where you're also leaving behind leads of new business and unthanked customers, clients, and people who don't know what you're doing at the moment because you're so busy working with everybody else. In fact, all the life gurus will tell us that all we need is some good weather, the love and respect of family and friends, and a little bit of good luck. So, in a little token of thank you to all you guys. Like I said, I was going to claw my way through this presentation, and I really appreciate you sitting still, most of you, for all of it. So from us at iTech Innovate, we're going to say a big thank you. I can't guarantee that you will get 30 million rand, but I bought everyone in the audience a lotto ticket. So there's someone, I'm not sure if they're on the right or the left. Could you just put up your hand on the right-hand side? It's a little packet. If you just take one and pass on, everybody here has got a chance to play Powerball tomorrow night. Thank you very much. The only thing I will say, and I think it's at 30.5 million rand. I'm hoping our 2 hours waiting for these to print out last night has bumped it up a little bit. But if somebody does win it outright, I think we can all collectively say they should put a couple of 100,000 rand into sponsoring next year's net profit. Is that okay? So quickly to sum up, find the bits that make a difference. See and write down to validate what you believe and show the people around you. Expect to make your own luck and future. Write it down again, yes, again, and show those around you what you've done. Communicate your message, communicate it again, check that it's been communicated. Underpromise and overdeliver, and then say thank you a lot. It works. Thanks very much.